UFC Vegas 86 just recently wrapped up, and I'm going to recap the entire card. I'll start with the first fight of the night and then work my way up to the main event. So make sure you guys smash that like button, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Let's talk about our first fight of the night, and it ended so uneventfully. Daniel Marcos is winning clearly against Aoriqileng, and a grazing groin strike as Quilong was in the air, and then a front kick by Marcos ends the fight. It's a no contest. Aoriqileng pulled a little bit of Aljamain Sterling style acting out of his hat, because I don't think that it was a devastating, ball-breaking type of nut shot. Like, yes, it was a low blow. We give him the 5 minutes. He could have continued. Aoriqileng is smarter than you guys think. He recognized that he was clearly outmatched against an undefeated Daniel Marcos, and he took the easy way out, which is, I'm not feeling it, I can't continue. Now, was he probably not feeling like fighting Daniel Marcos anymore? Absolutely. He was losing. He was getting ripped up. He was bleeding bad. He was cut up. He was beaten. His nose running. But in all actuality, that wasn't because of the nut shot that he didn't want to continue. It was the fact that he was clearly getting beaten here. Daniel Marcos is real solid. He's got a quality skill set. He's got good potential. I know he's pissed right now because he gets no win bonus and, you know, controversial quitting by Aoriqileng, or controversial no contest, but he quit. He could have kept fighting, and he recognized easier way out, and you don't get a loss on the record, and you got more fights coming. The UFC will rebook him against somebody else. We know what was happening with Marcos. Marcos moves up the ranks, and unfortunately, his first blemish on his record is this damn no contest. Still, great performance from him, and I really do think he's a solid prospect. Next fight on the card, Hyder Amil versus Fernie Garcia. This was a schoolyard beating. Hyder Amil was like the real jock, you know, kind of pounding out the nerdier kid back in like 1985. Fernie was small, right? He looked like a freshman with the senior. These guys kind of look similar too. Hyder is the naturally bigger dude at 55, right? Or excuse me, at 45. Whereas Fernie's fighting at 35 normally. He's on a losing streak, 0-3 in the UFC. And now you feed him to an unbeaten guy. He got the shit kicked out of him on a few days' notice. It's one of those weird situations, though. If I'm the UFC, he did us a favor taking the fight, and he looked horrible. He got bullied bad, okay? He got beaten up. But still, because he took it on this short notice and did the UFC the favor, do they bring him back after an 0-4 start to the UFC? Maybe for Fernie they do it, but shit, I don't love his chances against most guys in the UFC. Hyder Amil on the opposite front, yeah, he started fast. He was all over Fernie. He took him down. He beat him up. He was ripping him with shots on the feet. He got a standing knockout because it was just time to, you know, mercy rule him. It was a completely one-sided fight, and Fernie Garcia's body language was looking bad in the first round. He got clearly beaten up, and like, I know Fernie is, you know, before this 0-3 in the UFC, not 0-4, but nobody whooped his ass like this. Hyder really put a beating on him. I went back and actually rewatched this because, you know, I honestly missed like probably 3 minutes of the first round, and seeing it, even on replay, I mean, holy shit, beat down central. When I tuned in, I knew the fight was over for Fernie, and he was clearly outmatched. Amil was more impressive than I thought, man. He ran through Fernie Garcia with ease, and Fernie should cut down to 35, man. Bad short notice attempt. I know he did the UFC a favor. Maybe they'll do him a favor, give him another fighting paycheck, but I don't like his chances against anybody in the UFC. Next fight, Bogdan, Guskov, Zach Pauga. Okay, Guskov is pretty good. His hands look really smooth. They're low, they're fast, and they're stunning shots. Zach Pauga got flattened, man. It was a brutal punch combinations, like in the close range, with Guskov having his hands low, straight, and then like ripping an uppercut and a hook as Pauga's head is low. Down he went. He was finished off. Bogdan Guskov's Slick with it. He's still hittable though, because his hands are real low. You put him in there against a guy with heavy hands and, more technical tools than a Zach Pauga, he's susceptible to be ripped with some big punches. But he definitely has legit knockout power, and he's a pretty competent striker. The dude reads range well. Like when he fought Volkan Oezdemir in the debut, it was a crazy step up, way too much for him. Getting stepped to one of the worst or one of the lesser guys at 205 pounds, like a Zach Pauga, it was easy work. I mean, he got caught with one hook, maybe. Zach was trying to clinch him up and press him against the cage. Didn't work because Guskov's competent everywhere. And the hands-low style, it worked well for Guskov. When Pauga fell, it was like you knew it was over. Like they say the sack of potatoes going down. Like that's what it looked like with Pauga down and Guskov just standing over him, like yelling, hype as hell. It was a sick win. And I think that Bogdan Guskov is one of the mid-tier guys in this weight class. I'm not ready to say he's making a run towards top 15, but like I can envision him knocking out a Marcin Prachnio who fought on this card, and we'll talk about that fight in a moment. And Bogdan Guskov looked good. He definitely upped his stock, and for me, I respect the skill set a lot more here. For Pauga, he might be out of the UFC, man. He might be out of a job. Max Griffin, Jeremiah Wells, probably for most, they'd say it was a controversial call, at least some. Me, no, though. I scored it for Max Griffin 2-1, and I thought that he was going to end up winning a split decision at the end of it. I said that on the live stream. I said split decision Max Griffin sounds about right, and it absolutely hit home. He did well stopping Jeremiah Wells' bullying, striking onslaught, and he dealt with some big power shots, but he stung Jeremiah Wells too, and you could sense that Wells respected the strength and the power of Max Griffin on the other side. And then in the grappling, Jeremiah Wells couldn't just overpower and bully Max Griffin for too long. I mean, he did a little bit, but ultimately Max Griffin's a competent fighter. He's been in the UFC so damn long, and it was a competitive back and forth, but Griffin got his hand raised. He's one of those guys that's going to be tricky to beat. Like, even though Jeremiah Wells is a, pretty decently regarded prospect, I would say. He's weird, though. He's 37. He's not a prospect. Decently regarded, MMA veteran that got to the UFC late. You could see that he knew Max Griffin was game, and he couldn't just bully him like he bullied other guys. And Max Griffin definitely, to me, he deserved the win. I thought he was getting that split at the end, and I personally think it was the right call. Good win for Max Griffin. Next fight on the card, it was Marcin Prachnio and Devin Clark. This was surprising, man. I thought Devin Clark would really put the pedal to the metal and put a pace on Prachnio and actually have some success in the clinch. But holy shit, Prachnio stopped all of the takedowns from Devin Clark. Prachnio was touching him up on the feet and gave him a pretty clean kickboxing lesson. Late in the fight, Clark had a couple moments and he was coming after Prachnio with some hard shots, but Devin Clark is just not technical on the feet. He's not precise with his punches. He's good at bullying guys that are willing to wilt for him, but Prachnio was not willing to back down. He wasn't getting out-muscled at all. Prachnio was stronger than Devin Clark, and you saw the evidence of that with these strong takedown defense, and I think Devin Clark kind of put himself in a bad spot, man, because at one point he beat Alonzo Menafield, but now losing to Prachnio and losing every round pretty much, majority of the fight, that ain't a good look for him. Prachnio's striking look quality, though. I got to give credit where it's due. Marcin's kickboxing was there. It shows, damn, Vitor Petrino is an absolute stud. He's a killer. He's a ranked guy on the come up. He's going to give a lot of problems to the light heavyweight division because Prachnio looked like shit in that fight. And then he comes here and he takes on Devin Clark, who's a good bullying fighter. Decent bullying fighter, maybe not good anymore, maybe past his best days, but he made it look easy. At 35, Prachnio looks better than ever before. It was a really good win. And stopped takedowns, outstruck Devin Clark. I don't know why I'm interested in the Bogdan Guskov fight. I think we should make that fight. I know Guskov is not a veteran of the UFC at all, and he fought, Oezdemir, a top-ranked guy, and Pauga, a bottom-ranked guy. But him and Prachnio just seems like a cool stylistic clash. I want to see that fight next. Next fight on the card was Loma Lookboonmee versus Bruna, Brazil. Loma Lookboonmee pretty much dominated the fight. I mean, Brazil had some moments in the third round, but the output was so low. This was a bad fight. Now, I called Lookboonmee the lock of the week, and I'm happy to get the lock streak rolling again, and it was a great call in that front. Perfect one, too, because the decision. But, like, if you're talking about how the fight actually looked fan-sided, it was low-output Bruna Brasil, who has a big length advantage, but was getting outstruck from the outside by Lookboonmee, who was happy to just keep a more sparring-like pace and touch up Bruna Brasil from the outside. Like, Bruna Brasil, they keep comparing, the female Anderson Silva. And it's like, come on, guys. You've shot that thing in the foot. She's not the female Anderson Silva. That's a disgrace. That's actually a disrespect to Anderson Silva. No offense to Bruna Brasil. Like, she's a competent striker, but she's nowhere near the elite level. Loma Lookboonmee is pretty good, and she's somebody that at 28 and been in the UFC as long as she has, she's like teetering towards top 15 in the world at, women's 115 pounds, at women's straw. She was able to use her Muay Thai and outstrike the Brazilian Muay Thai. When you're picking between Muay Thai strikers, you got Brazilian Muay Thai or you got Thai. For the most part, women's division, especially outside of that top 15, I'm going with the actual Thai fighter. And Loma Lookboonmee, she did what she needed to do to win. Nothing more, but she got a W nonetheless. Next fight on the card, it was Bolaji Oki and Timothy Cuamba. Oki deserved the win, and it was not a split decision. I thought he deserved a clear win, but nonetheless, Timothy Cuamba gave him problems, and he did win a round. And Bolaji Oki, if you get him in bad positions on the ground, man, you give him a wrestler, you give him somebody with real good jiu-jitsu, he seems like he's still move to move, not thinking 3 moves ahead when he's in jiu-jitsu sequences. I think he's still on the lower tier. His physicality, strength, and explosiveness will make up for maybe a subpar Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu defensive game at the moment. But as you get into the elite, not just in prospect fights with other debuting guys like Timothy Cuamba, you're going to run into some problems. If it was Damir Hadzovic on the other side and Bolaji Oki's hands were not flowing and Hadzovic got control of him, I'd be worried that Hadzovic would have grinded out a unanimous decision win. Cuamba in loss, though, debut, got touched up with some hard shots, ate them all, showed a lot of heart. At 145, Timothy Cuamba has decent potential. He's only 25, so who really knows what the ceiling is? He had to go the hard route getting into the UFC because he got rejected after winning on Contender. Fought Oki on 6 days' notice, not even 3 days' notice. He hopped in, and he gave him a close enough fight, split decision, but it really was unanimous. But he still won a round for sure. Still definitely got the second. Bolaji Oki, he needs time. He's coming together. He's got good athleticism and explosiveness. I do feel like he's going to knock somebody out soon. And it was a UFC debut. It was a short notice replacement guy. So he's a little more hesitant maybe than he would have been. If it would have been Hadzovic who was out there, who Bolaji Oki had spent X amount of time studying and had an idea of the style. Whereas Cuamba, we're taking it on real short notice. Still, split decision, close fight. Bolaji Oki's highly regarded stock, I think, takes a little bit of a fall. And I don't know if you want to give him a Damir Hadzovic next. If the UFC is interested in building up a Belgium prospect and they really want to push Oki in the right direction, don't know for sure if they're actually backing him like that. I think Hadzovic in a rebooking could be a mistake because Hadzovic has grinded fighters out and controlled them in the grappling. And he's a decent enough striker. And Oki is still amateuristic in the grappling sequences. And I would rather see Oki fight other prospects as opposed to fighting a seasoned veteran. But still, Oki will be back, and I expect good things in the future. Next fight, Carlos Prates, Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles was winning the fight until the straight left absolutely ended him. He went straight back and it was over. It's because Prates was threatening with those knees, and then it just set up a perfect straight right down the line from southpaw. Giles fell to his back and it was done. But Giles' hands were looking good. He was touching Prates with hooks. He looked fast. And I think that Trevin Giles unfortunately falls victim to just getting comfortable in fights, settled a bit, and then gets caught. Like, we've seen it happen to him numerous times. He's a decent fighter. He's really not bad. He was winning the fight. It's just he can't avoid the kill shots. Prates found that beautiful punch and flattened him. He's interesting as a prospect because I think Prates is somebody to get excited about because he's from Brazil, because he just flattened Trevin Giles. But I'll tell you this, I don't see him as a future title challenger. I don't think he's making the top 10. Prates will lose as he enters the upper echelon of the welterweight division. Imagine it was Nicholas Dalby on the other side. Dalby would have beat him. Dalby also exposed Bonfim, who was really good. That's a step up in competition for sure. And I think Prates can still touch up some guys, but like if I'm the UFC and, if Prates is somebody that, we're trying to put on a Brazil card and give him a good fight, I think we should see Prates back at 301 in Brazil. I think that's a good idea. I think you bring him back and you give him somebody debuting or you give him somebody 3 fights in, because Trevin Giles was a crafty vet and he was winning up until he got caught. So how far are we going to jump up Prates after this one? I think maybe give him someone less notable than, a Trevin Giles even. Still, the knockout shot was beautiful. Prates is an absolute killer, and he's somebody that nonetheless is going to be a joy to watch on the come up. Seeing him getting boxed up a bit, I'm saying he's a little suspect with the defense. He's not the quickest guy. He's got a big straight left. He's got nasty knees. His Muay Thai is sick on the inside, but it's concerning. It's concerning moving forward. Prates, though, nonetheless got it done. Let's talk about our main card. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the likes, and if you're new, subscribe. Rodolfo Vieira, Armen Petrosyan. This fight right here was an absolute exposure on Petrosyan's front. Now, realistically, I'm kind of over-exaggerating. Rodolfo Vieira is a legitimate championship-level jiu-jitsu practitioner, and as soon as he put Petrosyan on the ground, I knew it was trouble when Petrosyan was trying to give his back to get up. And Rodolfo Vieira, the commentary team said, because of the inexperienced grappling, Petrosyan will probably give his back like that. He was anticipating it, and Vieira knew how to capitalize. I mean, Petrosyan was dead when they hit the ground. Vieira is so damn strong from top position. He's good, man. He's got really good jiu-jitsu, and he just made easy work of Armen Petrosyan, who still went the distance and was competitive against the likes of Kyle Barajo. And Petrosyan has a split decision win over Gregory Rodriguez, who's known for very good jiu-jitsu, and he's somebody the UFC is definitely pushing, who fought on this card. Rodolfo Vieira's jiu-jitsu serious, man. Arm triangle, 2 taps by Petrosyan. The ref jumped in. I think Petrosyan went out for a second, and that's why he acted like, wait, I didn't tap, what? But he was gone. Like, as Vieira stood up, you can see that Petrosyan was still not there. So Rodolfo Vieira putting Armen Petrosyan to sleep with an arm triangle in the first round. His jiu-jitsu is always game. If he gets guys to the floor, if he is on top of you, you are in very big trouble unless you are a seasoned grappler too. Or you better have Chris Curtis takedown defense. Good W for Rodolfo Vieira. Next fight on the card, Michael Johnson gave Darrius Flowers a veteran lesson and a half. Johnson's boxing looked so smooth. Touched to the body nice a lot, because Flowers was kind of giving him body shots as he'd bring up that guard a bit high. Flowers didn't have the speed to close the gap, and then Michael Johnson timed key takedowns. At the end of the fight, Johnson's controlling for the most part from top, and then Flowers, with less than a minute left, is throwing a flying knee that leads to a grappling sequence, and Flowers is then on a Kimura, but I knew he didn't have it at the end of it. He shot for that sub, but shooting for a knockout would have been the best thing. Separating from that grappling attack and then just trying to throw bombs would have been in Flowers' best interest, but he probably wouldn't have got it done, man. He probably wouldn't have got it done. Flowers has got some decent pop. He's 0-2 in the UFC now. He's really bad boxing record. I still think he can knock somebody out. I still think he's going to win if they give him the right fight. Michael Johnson was just too good. Michael Johnson looks slick, man. Michael Johnson looks like the Michael Johnson we know. In this fight, he fought with a good game plan and dominated Flowers over the 3 rounds. I always look forward to Michael Johnson fights, man. And the way he touches the body, then goes high, he still wants to be a top-level contender. I think that he's going to run into a knockout punch at some point again, or just somebody that can beat him in positions in the grappling. But, when you feed him guys that are not towards the upper echelon, for the most part, he wins. I know that Jamie Malarkey lost recently. It's kind of a bad stain, but most agree it was a controversial decision anyways. Michael Johnson looked good and dominant here, beating Darrius Flowers. It was a nice win. Good body work. fast hands. Michael Johnson did good shit. Next fight, Gregory Rodriguez versus Brad Tavares. RoboCop walked Tavares down, made it a hell of a fight. He was sitting in there with Tavares, and he got touched a bit, but RoboCop's chin held up, and he dropped some bombs on Brad Tavares early in the third round and finished him off. He also timed a nice takedown in the second, worked some top position, looks strong in the grappling as we expect. Rodriguez, he hits hard, man, and he throws power into every damn punch. And he walked Brad Tavares down for most of the fight. Tavares was unable to keep RoboCop off of him because Brad Tavares is just not a heavy power puncher. He's not known for knocking people out. He's a competent striker, but he's not a knockout puncher. And to put a guy like Rodriguez out, you better have some great timing or some huge power or some just gnarly speed, and the shot just lands flush because Tavares walking down RoboCop wasn't really happening. RoboCop was too much of a force. Jacked, strong as hell, and big power in his hands, throwing massive hooks on the inside, forcing Tavares backwards, and he gets a standing KO. Tavares was finished off. It was a great stoppage by the ref. Showed him some mercy. Yeah, I like RoboCop. RoboCop is, everybody is a fan. Like, he's a sleeper guy on the cards. He's got a fun style. He comes forward. He looks to bang. You know his chin is susceptible to being turned off, so kind of makes fights more fun because he might have crazy-ass power, but if he gets hit clean, he can fall too. And he put it on the vet, Brad Tavares. Good shit by Gregory Rodriguez. I'm curious what they do next. Do we give him a ranked guy next? I'm leaning no. I'm leaning not giving him a ranked guy next, but like, he just beat Brad Tavares, which is a, pretty key win in the weight class. Decent win, at least. Next fight was Ihor Potieria and Robert Brajček, and Potieria pulled off a big upset and exposed Brajček. But the first round, before the foul sequences that happened, it was an accidental eye poke. It kind of looked like the glove was closed and it touched Poteria's eye. And then a low blow that was blocked by Potieria. Really, it was coming to the stomach, blocked by Potieria, and then it hit him in the bottom part of the cup, more towards the thigh. So he had 2 breaks and then a harsh Mike Beltran warning to Brajček about a point deduction. It's like Brajček never came back from that. He looked like his game was completely stifled. His momentum was gone. Because early in the fight, he was looking slick and he was finding shots on Potieria. And then the breaks, and Potieria took over. Potieria looked real slick, man. He was sitting in there throwing fast shots, dropped Brajček too. I think Potieria had a real breakout performance here. I mean, can you make 185? That's the question. He said he wants to be the middleweight champion. He was at 87.5. The reason I'm going to bank on him making 85 is because he took this fight on short notice. He said he cut 32 pounds this week. That's fucking crazy. That's a legit weight cut. He's going to make 85 when he has a full camp. I don't know who's next, because he beat an unranked guy in Brajček who was debuting, but a debuting guy that had some steam behind him and was a real competent striker. I've said I thought Brajček was definitely a better striker than Bolato, who was the last opponent for Potieria, and he was. But Potieria, pretty quick, man. Pretty slick shots, kind of hands-low style, throw shots from the hips, slick punches, hard to read and predict. And he finds home to some bombs, and he rocked Brajček. It was a good win for him, man. Potieria looks solid at 85. I think it's a good career move. 205, he was tall enough, but he wasn't big enough. Next fight was our co-main event, Dan Ige versus Andre Fili. It took one punch, and Dan Ige flattens Andre Fili. Call it a damn night. Right hand over the top. Down goes Fili, and then one extra strike for good measure by Ige. First round KO. The fight was kind of just getting heated up. They were striking from the outside, and Ige just found the bomb. He's got dangerous striking, and he was super calculated here in timing his shot. And it's like interesting too, because these guys are cool with each other. They've trained together. They were friends. And to see Dan Ige put his lights out like that, it was pretty crazy. It was a gnarly knockout. Dan Ige has legit power. He can knock a lot of dudes out. I don't think Fili's chinny, but he did get knocked out by Joe Anderson Brito. He's been finished a couple times in the past, and now Dan Ige just put his lights out. For Ige, this is great for him because, like, taking on an unranked guy where he's in kind of one of those positions where he's like a gatekeeper for the 145-pound weight classes, top 15. And Fili's also a vet who would probably love to get back into the rankings. One shot changes everything. And Dan Ige flattened him. Do we do the Lerone Murphy rebooking? I'm kind of saying yeah, because I think Dan Ige could touch up Lerone Murphy too. Dan Ige's hands are legit. Unless you're spamming takedowns on him, you're forced to strike. Like, he still rocked Josh Emmett. People forget about that. Dan Ige can crack. He can box with most guys in the UFC, especially, most guys at 45. And Fili got flattened. Good win for Dan Ige. And I want that Lerone Murphy rebooking, man. For Fili, you did him a favor, jumping in on short notice. The UFC will reward him maybe with a lighter touch next time out. Main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the likes. Jack Hermansson versus Joe Pyfer. Jack Hermansson did it. First round, Pyfer was looking like an absolute terrifying force to be reckoned with. And it seemed like in the first 20 seconds, I'm like, yo, is he going to knock Hermansson out in the first round? Because he touched him good. Second round, still was looking fast, landing hard shots in 3, 4, and 5. Like, Joe Pyfer's onslaught was survived by Hermansson, and then Hermansson's finding jabs. Then Hermansson finding more counter strikes. He's ripping leg kicks, destroying Pyfer's legs. He's sweeping the leg out from under him. And then late in the fight, lands a takedown too, gets on top, and out-grappled Pyfer. Jack Hermansson gave him the true veteran lesson, and it's crazy because the UFC was pushing Joe Pyfer hard. They put him in the damn video game, okay? And they're talking about him on the broadcast, his story, they're on the Joe Pyfer hype train. They want to build him. Even after the fight, they did a post-fight interview with Pyfer. Pyfer after the fight, they even said, we look forward to seeing more from him. He's still a great prospect. It's just an early loss. Like, the UFC is in the Joe Pyfer business. I think it's facts. Like, the UFC would like to see Joe Pyfer do well. I think it's, because he's got a fun style. He has big knockout power. And I still think he can emerge as a contender. Young, though, 27, right? Took on 8 years his senior opponent who's been in the UFC forever, and he wasn't able to get him out of there in the first 2. If it's a 3-round fight, okay, he's taking it on the scorecards. But in a 5-round main event, he got taken to that breaking point. Jack Hermansson got him, and I think the UFC's kicking themselves. They should have done this as a 3-round fight. Why didn't they put this on the 298 main card? Find a different main event here. Should have just gave us Whitaker versus Costa, this main event. Put Pyfer on that card, and then your prospect safe. Unfortunate how the game goes. 5 rounds is a different beast for these prospects that haven't been the 5 rounds before. He's knocking everybody out in one touch. He's taking them down and bullying them in the second round. Then you meet Jack Hermansson, who, in the first round you're touching up. Second round, you got a speed advantage. But then you start getting into deep ocean. The fight's going long, and Hermansson has been there time and time again. And Hermansson did a great job, and he deserves all my praise. Like, not the most impressive guy, not the most imposing guy, but he's got a decent fight IQ. He's got solid enough boxing. He's got competent jiu-jitsu. He's got decent wrestling, and he's got a damn good gas tank. And that is what led him to victory over a vet, Joe Pyfer. He picked him apart, man. He busted him up and hurt him with the jab to the eye, and Pyfer reacted as if he got eye poked at one point, and that's when I could tell the tide had completely shifted favoring Jack Hermansson. Now, Pyfer was still throwing really hard shots in those later rounds, even in the 5th round, still trying to land bombs on Jack Hermansson. So we got to give some credit to the heart. But Pyfer just needs some time to marinate. I think Jack Hermansson held his ground really well. And taking a guy on who was 3-0 in the UFC, looking to get to that 4-0 mark and jump all the way up to the number 11 ranked guy after being unranked, that was a huge step up in competition. Jack Hermansson fought him off beautifully. I thought it was a really swell performance. That keeps Jack Hermansson in the upper echelon conversation. And after the fight, he made a great call out. He called out Imavov. To me, that fight makes sense. Imavov beat Dolidze. Dolidze's a decent enough win. Jack Hermansson just beat Pyfer, who was supposed to be the prospect on the come-up that everybody was picking to win here, me included. I think Hermansson versus Imavov's a really cool fight, and I'd like to see that next for Hermansson. As far as Pyfer goes, I don't think you rush him back in the rankings. I think you give him somebody unranked. Not an absolute scrub, though, because Pyfer can go 5 rounds with a Jack Hermansson. He's still quality. Marc-Andre Barriault type of guy, maybe. Is that too far of a step down, or is that a sensible fight? Chidi and Kawani. At some point, I'd like to see Joe Pyfer, Gregory Rodriguez. I think that'd be a sick fight. And I think Pyfer could knock him out. Gregory Rodriguez versus Pyfer is a dope matchup. I know this is kind of crazy because they're on this card, and, you know, Rodriguez is a fan favorite. Pyfer's somebody they're trying to build. But if Pyfer lands on RoboCop, he'll put him down. I'd be interested in that fight. That's a potential matchup to make. We'll see what the UFC decides. Nonetheless, the card delivered, I think, pretty well here. I actually really enjoyed this UFC Apex card. I had a lot of fun with these, especially, you know, last two. Watching Pyfer get pushed to the limit and lose, it was telling, though, that he's got the heart, just doesn't have the gas tank of the skill right now, and Jack Hermansson gave him that veteran lesson. It was a great performance. It was a great win, and it was a good way to cap off a night that I think was decent. Now, as far as how the picks went, right, 7, 6, and 1. So decent as far as how the picks went. Lost with Pyfer in the main, won with Ige in the co-main, lost with Brightcheck, won with Rodriguez, lost with Flowers, lost with Petrosyan, won with Prates, won with Oki, won with Lookboonmee, who was the lock, lost with Clark, won with Max Griffin, lost with Pauga, won with Amil, and then no contest here. Should have been 8 and 6 on the night if all things were just, but that is how the game goes. Yeah, looking through this card, I want to see, like, let's concoct the score. Decent fights here. These are solid. This was okay. This is okay. Okay. Decent. Quality knockout. Great jiu-jitsu. Clean veteran performance. Sick win. Decent fight. Sick knockout. You know what? Like, this card, for an Apex card, I'm going to put it at a 7.8. A 7.8. That's my score. Like, the reason is maybe because last week was less than compared to this one. And I don't know. I think the Dan Ige knockout was pretty fucking awesome. I thought Rodriguez getting a sick win was sweet. I actually really was excited for the Johnson-Flowers fight. And even though, you know, maybe it wasn't the best fight we've ever seen, I was curious to see how two dudes with a little bit of history threw down. So overall, I'll give it a 7.8. Maybe I'm overshooting it this week. So what? It's a 7.8 this week, man. I want to start scoring these cards post-fight. Right now, I'm feeling a good 7.8. But 7.8 is nothing to sneeze at. Still a good score. I'm not going to be giving easy scores. For the Apex, 7.8 worthy. Nonetheless, guys, I hope you enjoyed the week's worth of content for UFC Vegas 86. Vengeance with the lock. And finally back, grooving some things on that. I'm happy. And UFC 298's this coming Saturday. We got a sick fight week of daily content and live streams, which I can't wait for. So if you're new, make sure you subscribe. Obviously, smash that like button. If you don't have your post notifications turned on, turn them on. And don't just leave them on personalized. Put them on all. You don't want to miss a video. Daily content's coming, and I think you'll enjoy it all. Let me know what you thought of the fights in the comments below. Drop a W in the chat if you got nothing to say. And I'm curious. Let me know, guys. What is your score out of 10 of this fight night? And give it like a Portnoy-style score, like Dave Portnoy, you know what I'm saying? Give it like a 7, 7.8, an 8, an 8.3. Don't just give me a round number, you know what I'm saying? We don't want no rookie scores. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys. See you in the next one. Peace.